Okay, we're back again with another review special, this time of The Croods, A New Age. We definitely didn't record this on the same day that we recorded our Freaky special, which is probably up now. Check it out. This is a different movie. This is a kid-friendly movie. The Croods, A New Age. The 7-year sequel. 7-year too late sequel. The 7-year... No, I don't want to say that. It's been 7 years since the first film. The Croods are back.
I think it's been too long for a sequel.
This time...
You gotta get those sequels out, baby. Make the people care.
This time, everyone comes back for the Croods. This time, meeting the Bettermans, the more evolved people. I'm Brandon T. McClure. With me, as always, on this journey of prehistoric mania is Ben Magnet.
Yes, and I have brought snacks so I can enjoy the chaos while I am getting delicious food input in me.
You better mute it, mister.
I will.
I don't want to hear you chomping.
Ryan Eliopoulos.
Hey, it's me. I'm Eep and Grug, and that's the names I remember.
Guy. Don't forget about Guy.
And Sparks Woody.
Hi, I like this movie.
Spoilers.
All right, so let's get right into it. Sparks already told us his full review. There's no more that he needs to say. So bye, Sparks. No, I'm kidding.
5-minute review. Bye-bye.
So yeah, let's get right into it. What do we think about this one?
You go.
Oh, I liked it. I didn't like it as much as I liked the first one. As I mentioned before on the main show, I adore that first film. Makes me cry every time. It's the same way that I cried the first time I watched it. This film is fun. It's enjoyable. It's for me, it doesn't reach the heights of that first film.
Okay.
Anybody else?
I thought you were going to go next, Ryan. Jeez. I enjoyed it. I had fun. I do not regret seeing it.
You said regret?
I said I do not regret seeing it.
I heard recommend, and I was confused.
Do you guys forget how do we do this?
No, well, because do we always go in order? I don't know.
Someone says their thoughts.
I saw the Croods for the first time like 3 days ago. So I have a very different relationship with this franchise. I like the second movie more. I don't think it's a better movie, but I had way more fun than the first movie.
Interesting. Sparks?
Yeah, I think I'm probably still sitting at I probably enjoyed the first one more, but I think I'd like to give the second one another watch before I made that decision.
Sure.
I really like the second. I really like the second one. Like, they're close. And I'm pretty pleased that that's the case, considering that this is a different group of screenwriters and a different director from the first one. So I'm just glad that it didn't turn out bad, because unfortunately, The Croods has a track record of just terrible trailers, absolutely god-awful marketing, some of the worst I've ever seen for both movies.
Yep.
And yet somehow these movies are good, and they just cannot get that across in trailers for some reason.
Marketing has failed the Croods.
Ryan, I wanted to ask, what did you think about the Croods one in general?
I liked it. I think it's a really good movie. I wonder if it was like me seeing it when I saw it, or like seeing it if I would have saw it with you guys. Like when it originally came out, I'd probably be more positive on it. Not that I'm negative on it. I just don't think it's not the best DreamWorks movie. I still think How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda and some of those other movies are better than this. But it's a really good movie. I honestly, like, the closest thing, it reminds me of like Deadpool to Deadpool 2. I think Deadpool's a better movie, but all the action and the comedy, I had so much more fun in Deadpool 2. And that's kind of how I feel with this movie. It capitalizes on all of the fake Avatar stuff more in this movie. And that's what I really liked. And I thought the Bettermans were just hilarious. All the stuff with them, I really, really liked. I think they were a really good foil.
I do wonder, like, for Ryan's purposes of having seen the Croods one, like, I know for the three of us, because we all saw it together, that not knowing there was a sequel, not knowing what would happen post the end of the first one, there's definitely a point where we all thought, oh, they might kill the dad. Like, they just might straight up go for it, and it might just stay that way. And what a bold, and like, the movie still ends in a really good way, I feel, that it didn't need to kill him.
Yeah.
But I definitely, like, we were all left in that moment of suspense, like, I don't know what the rest of this movie is right now. No freaking clue. And I do think, like, I definitely wouldn't carry that torch for it if I saw it knowing that there was more that the dad would be around for. Which isn't to say, like, oh, I think that would make it a better movie in your eyes, but, like, that shot is just gone. Like, you can't factor it in. And I think that's always kind of going to sit with the three of us on the Croods one, is that I know that moment of suspense hung with us when we watched it, that we were all like, what?
I mean, yes, sure. But also, like, it's like Toy Story 3, I could watch 100 times and I know they're not going to die in that melting pot. I still get emotional towards it.
No, for sure. I'm not saying, like, you don't get emotional about it. I'm saying that there's the sense of suspense, of stakes, of the unknown doesn't exist in the same way.
I do know what you mean. I still, him dying or not dying, me that wouldn't have affected it.
Let me be clear. This isn't me, like, saying this would change your opinion.
Yeah.
This is me saying I can't get past that opinion.
Oh yeah.
Because that was my effect in my experience. It's not a slight on your experience of seeing it.
I think The Croods is a really good movie. I don't think I need to say any more than that.
Yeah,
it's good.
I think what differentiates this film. So this film definitely has, and there are going to be numerous comparisons to the first one because it is a sequel. One of the things that I found interesting going into this movie is that it has a very different feel than that first Croods film, and mainly because of the new team attached to this film. But there's a lot of, I think this film leads more into the comedy than the first one does.
100% it does.
Yeah.
That's why I like it more.
Yeah, and it does better. It does comedy better. Frankly,
I think most of the comedy works in this movie. Like not everything works. But for what it was going for, I think this is a much more entertaining movie than entertaining in terms of like laughing out loud instead of, like, just enjoying it for being like a emotional piece. Like this felt like a comedy to me, where the first one did not.
Yeah.
The first one is definitely more. The first one is definitely more what DreamWorks was going for, and what I've come to call their kind of golden age of, like, we're trying to be Pixar. We are attempting to be Pixar right now, and the Croods 2 is more along the lines of what they're trying to do now, which is that they're, we're more kid friendly, we're more comedy friendly, we're trying to kind of pave our own path.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is a bad thing, not at all.
No, yeah, it is totally a very different movie, and I was almost worried at the beginning because, like, I was like, man, they're leaning into the comedy hard, but like I very quickly got over that. And I really found it, like, really dynamic and really kinetic, and I just thought the action was so much more inventive, and it's like the cinematography. I think it's just like a better, like, technically made, well, obviously not because of the graphics, but, like, I just think in terms of shot composition, this is a much more fun movie to watch.
There's a more vibrant design and color palette.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say, honestly, the first one's pretty colorful itself, but this one takes all of that up to another level with how it imagines the world. All of that, as far as, like, a next step, feels like it's very properly well enhanced.
Yeah. And for a movie that's about cavemen, like, their world's very brown, and I would not want a whole movie that's just about cavemen living in that brown world. So I'm glad that, one, the marketing was a failure. It didn't tell me about the whole Avatar world, basically. But there's this entire beautiful jungle world full of half animal creatures that is awesome, and that's what I loved about the Croods. So the fact that it dived into it way more into this one, that's why I liked it. Because, like, if it was just going to be more caveman drama, man, I could watch the History of Fire on the Discovery Channel or whatever,
I did really appreciate that we went further into the history of the punch monkeys, which were a fun standout from the first film.
Yeah.
And then the whole society.
Learning that language must be just a pain in the ass.
I do really like Guy's moment of, like, I'm fluent in punch monkey.
Yeah.
You guys aren't going to watch this. It's not a pretty language.
I think the movie does something interesting in that when it started, I thought, oh, the first movie's Eep's narrative. This is Guy's narrative. Mm-hmm. And then partway into that, Eep interrupts Guy's narrative with her own narrative. So it makes it their narrative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And And I would argue that I think that almost works to the movie's detriment at some points, because while I enjoyed watching it and I had a good time with everything that happened in this period of time in the middle, what would be Act 2, Guy just kind of stopped being a character. Like, he just wasn't in scenes for a while. There's just a chunk of time where we're not following him anymore. And all of a sudden then he comes back and his arc needs to be important again. And I was like, that's an odd choice for the guy who started the movie with his narration about his parents and picking up the themes of that. I'm like, that's a little odd.
It's not arc.
No.
I did really like going to the beginning, in the beginning of the movie, going back to Guy's revelation in the first film where he talks to Grug, it's like, this is how my parents died, you can't get out of this. And like seeing that moment, I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I agree. That I thought that worked really well, which is why it was all the more weird when it kind of stopped being about Guy for a good chunk of the film and then returned to him. And then by association, Eep. And again, like, I kind of feel like they wanted to make it a story about their love together. I think they mostly succeed at that, but it feels like it probably would have been cleaner to just leave it like, this is Guy's narrative.
Yeah.
We're tracking the story of Guy and how he screws this up, and like all the other characters are there too.
No, yeah, I agree with that.
I think there's a lot of positives to say. I think so I want to get my two negatives out of the way, which number one is the big one, which is that one of the things I like so much about the Croods when I watched the first one is that when it ends, I feel like there has been a lot of growth with the characters, both visually and internally. One of the ways that they denote this in that movie is that partway through the film, Uga loses her headband, completely changes her look. She literally lets her hair down, becomes a different kind of person. That visual transformation would carry over into all of them by the end of the movie, where they all kind of like redesign their looks into the new world and how they carry on themselves. And definitely with the design and how they went into this, it felt like they just didn't care about that growth from the first movie, this being a different team and everything, because their outfits are right back to what they were at the beginning. Uga's hair is back up exactly as it was at the beginning of the last one. They completely forget that this one bothered me. They completely forget that the baby said her first word in the first movie when they thought Grug was gonna die. And she said "dada," and then they say, "Oh, she just said her first word," and I'm like,
Right.
You know what this kind of feels like? It almost feels like a soft reboot.
Yeah,
because
in a way,
because you are 100% right. It feels like a new comic book number one, where like all that stuff that should have happened should apply, but they're back in their regular costumes.
And yet there's a reliance on Grug and Eep's relationship that you need to have known from the previous one for it to carry weight, because they don't like reintroduce that concept.
It's almost like if you want to make a comparison to DreamWorks sequels, it would be like if How to Train Your Dragon 2 didn't respect the growth of the first film. If Hiccup was back to
had both legs
or something, like not so much that extreme, but like in that similar vein of Hiccup not growing.
I'll minimize it down. If Toothless just suddenly had the other part of his tail back.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
They just dropped that element after the first movie. Yeah. It's kind of like that. It's kind of like, we're just going to ignore that aspect that was kind of pivotal to narrative themes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is like, yes, this movie doesn't necessarily need those things for it to function as a story. However, the first one those weren't just like, casual things. Those were intricately placed to apply thematic growth.
Yeah.
And this movie just went, we're not going to touch that part. And the unfortunate cost of that is that we see Grug for the first half of the film repeating a lot of the steps he did in the first one, which feels really shitty when you've come away from the first one. And the whole point was that he got over certain aspects of that. I think it's perfectly fine for him to be okay with Guy, to be on a better level, to be more respectful of his daughter and more accepting of letting go, and still panic the moment he finds out that Guy wants them to leave the pack entirely. That's acceptable with the growth he had, but they still just like bring that on like it's on top of everything that he should have already addressed before.
There was a moment that I was watching this, and we all watched it because we all watched this in the drive-in. I turned to Zara and I was just like, look, why is Grug so not okay with Guy all of a sudden?
Right.
There's so many moments where Grug is so hostile to Guy, and I was like, didn't we get over this? Didn't we fix this?
That's why it feels like this new creative team was like, nobody saw the Croods, so we're gonna make a 1-minute introduction at the beginning to tell what happened in that movie, and then the only people who will care are the people who saw the movie, and like that's an unfortunate like. I just don't think they cared, and that sucks. I think they wanted to focus on the Bettermans, and they were like, that first movie existed, but like we weren't involved in it,
right?
And that sucks.
And everything that we've discussed, I think, doesn't really matter. Doesn't really.
I don't think anything ruins it, but it just like.
However,
if you pay attention,
it doesn't really ruin the movie unless you're a person who cared about watching the first one.
Yeah.
Except, I would argue Grug. I do think Grug's arc is damaged enough in this film where you're detracting from his characterization by putting him through those beats again in this film, rather than like I think this movie is funnier overall. I think this movie is pretty solid overall, very imaginative. There's some characters like Uga who I would argue are done better. The grandma too
Thunder Sisters
are both done better in this movie, I would argue, than they were in the first one.
Listen, I got what is it? Wigasus? Come on.
Wigasus, yeah.
But Grug as a character feels like he was pulled a step back.
Yeah, he's a regression,
and a step back too far, which is unfortunate because Nicolas Cage is a really enjoyable part of these movies.
He's still killing it.
He's still doing great. And he's still doing great. But truncating his arc in that way left him little places to go in this movie. Whereas if he'd started in the further along path he should have, there would have been more to explore with him.
It also feels like that like he's one of the characters they wanted to do the least with, because you look at how much they did with like the kids and like and the grandma, and I'm like clearly they had like favorites, and they're like, oh, it's Grug, he can
they completely overhauled the grandmother, and I think to the movie's strength,
100%. Yeah,
but yeah, you're absolutely right. Where they were just like, we want to focus on the grandma, the Bettermans, Aga, not really anyone else.
Yeah, that stinks. Yeah.
Sometimes Guy.
Sometimes Guy. Yeah. Because, but only how Guy relates to the Bettermans.
Right.
Yeah. I think the stuff with the Betterman's daughter, and then is it Uga? Is that the Emma Stone?
No. Eep.
Stuff with Eve and like becoming like getting like a new girlfriend, like best friend. I thought that stuff was really charming and really fun. The stuff with them over the wall, just keep jumping over stuff, like all that comedy. I think like really works in this movie.
See, so that's a great point of like, that's another one where I'm like, you clearly called back to the thematic tones of the first one with Eep and her relationship with her, because she says, this is your cave. You're doing the thing I was going through in the first movie. Let me help you get out of that. That totally works and plays off those things. And it's just weird when like other people didn't, but I agree with you. Like, I think that whole section about them is really solid.
And this movie,
if in moments a little misplaced.
This movie is also like, again, like it's like an hour and a half, right? You know, it's like we're in and out of there. I could have used a little more character stuff. Like I think they wanted to just make like they wanted to make a sequel to the Croods instead of like honoring the Croods, if you know what, like, not that this is bad, but like they definitely just wanted to make another movie instead of like a true Croods sequel. It feels like
it feels like to me, and I want to real quick, I want to put a pin in the Betterman's daughter, because I want to talk about Kelly Marie Tran a bit. But it does feel like to me that this film wasn't necessarily made because the studio was like, we have a good idea for a Croods sequel. Because like the creative team for like How to Train Your Dragon was like, we have this 3-arc franchise we want to do. Whereas this, the studio saw there was a push to get a sequel to the Croods. They thought that there would be a market there for the Croods, which honestly they were right, because it's doing better than every movie that's been out during COVID.
It's surprisingly making a lot of money. I'm like, nice.
Yeah, it made more money than Tenet. So, like, no joke, not even kidding.
This leads me to believe that a lot of people have found the Croods on Netflix since its theatrical release. Maybe just because of the movie on its own, maybe because of the not so great cartoon show that showed up. But yet, if that draws kids and families in, that's all you need. And then they watch the movie, whatever. It probably found its own little cult audience.
And I think that what the studio wanted to do, what DreamWorks Animation wanted to do, would be like, okay, so this is doing well. This has found an audience. Let's make a sequel. And the creative team said, we don't have an idea for a sequel. or they just didn't like the idea for the sequel, so they went with someone else who was like, yeah, we'll make a Croods sequel, whatever.
It's
not to
so
say there's not interest of it, but it does feel like there's not as much passion in making from the studio from this film that there was in the first film.
It's definitely like it's definitely better than like if it was just like a workshop movie, like we just hired some random director to make the movie to shit it out. It's definitely better than that. But again, it's a situation of like who was championing a Croods sequel, because like the movie's good, but like that movie did not make money. So I'm just like, how did this movie get made and it come out 7 years later? It's so interesting behind the scenes of like, who was the guy like, I'm making a Croods sequel, baby. I'm getting it made. I want to know who that guy is.
Yeah. I do want to talk about Kelly Marie Tran because I specifically want to highlight her. I think she is a great voice actress.
Yeah.
This is, I think, her first voiceover role.
And then the next one is,
and then the next one's Raya.
Yeah, Raya, which is a big movie. Yeah.
So I'm really excited to see her as Raya next. But I was really impressed with her with her voice acting performance. Honestly.
Yeah, she's good. And honestly, I was surprised that the entire cast came back for this movie, and two, they're all still good. Like it's not like Ryan Reynolds could very easily phone this in. That dude's richer than the planet Earth. But I think everyone's like still doing good. Like,
Emma Stone too.
Emma Stone's great.
They're both kind of the ones who, like, when you hear, well, they're making a Croods 2, and you're kind of like, either they're not coming back or they're not gonna
only Nick
want to
Cage
commit to it.
Is coming back. Yeah.
And no, they really like they put as much into these characters, if not more, than they did the first time around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really the Ryan Reynolds specifically, because the Croods came out around the time where Ryan Reynolds was a little bit more subdued than he is now. And to see him kind of like go back to that more subdued Ryan Reynolds role is really cool.
Yeah, that's like a year before Deadpool, right? Or like right around Deadpool. Yeah,
it's a couple years before Deadpool, I think.
Yeah, it was a while before Deadpool.
Here's in 2020. Oh my god. Oh Ben, you say some words. You haven't said anything.
No, I haven't seen The Croods since I last saw it in theaters, and it's one of those movies that I remember walking out of it. I really enjoyed. I just haven't gone back to. So when you guys are talking about all these things that in course the first one, I completely forgot. Like, I completely forgot that the sister, the baby said her first words in the first movie, or that Grug and Guy had this, they're butting heads, and then they kind of like reconciled at the end of it. I completely forgot because it's been that long since I last saw it.
Maybe that's what they're banking on, is that it's been so long.
Probably, yeah. Because now that you mention it, it's like, oh yeah, maybe because I forgot who said it, but someone said something along the lines of, because they didn't see this first movie, and if you care about the first movie, then you have seen it. Because I did see the first movie, but I guess I'm in that weird middle ground where I like the first movie. I like the first movie a lot, but I haven't seen it in the past 7 years after theaters.
Do you remember the line when he's flying in the cage and he sees Douglas? Douglas? Hey, I know that guy.
No, I don't.
Oh man, that's
you
good.
need to watch the original again, my friend.
I do. The only thing about the original that I like that was an improvement is the grandma, because I only remember the grandma from the first one just being like, "Oh, I'm still alive," and Greg's like, "She did it. She did it. Oh, damn, she's not dead yet."
That's a funny bit that just gets funnier.
It is a funny bit. Whereas this one, she turns out to be this super awesome badass.
Because then the payoff is that he's happy when she says still alive at the end. Love it.
Yeah, the grandma is a great upgrade. I love the Thunder Sisters.
I'm just glad Cloris Leachman's still alive. Thank God.
Yeah. Right. The grandma when she snores with her eyes open, and like it does like this movie, which when done well, I always love, which is a good zoom in. So like when she snores, and then she snores louder, it gets zooms on her face and her eyes. And like when comedy is like that, I love that. And this movie did a lot of that, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, this movie has a lot of really solid comedic beats.
I think Peter Dinklage rules. He is so. I didn't realize it was him until after the movie. I was like, oh man, that dude's suave as hell. He's got such a nice voice.
I'm surprised he didn't catch it when him and Greg were in the sauna, and he was like, "Are you susceptible to suggestion?" I was like, "There's a little Tyrion." I was like, "Oh, there's a Tyrion Lannister I know and love."
Leslie Mann, she's great. She's always great. Yeah, it's really, really great voice cast all around, really.
Yeah.
I do love when she gets stung by the bee and then she's acting all drunk because of her bee sting.
Big hand, yeah.
They're giant like
it's a balloon sound effect too, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
She's just reacting to the bee sting venom. What? It's just a little one. This is not a little one.
Yeah, I did like seeing Guy's transformation into kind of becoming Guy Betterman, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, all their outfits are hilarious, and their sandals.
They're all the same.
That
Gentrification.
That comedy really works with the same conceptualization of like how Guy felt about the Croods when he met them.
Mm-hmm.
They are essentially meant to be a caveman family that survived when they weren't supposed to.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks to Guy's aid.
It's sad.
That's like the narrative.
When Guy's like, when he's talking to Eve, he's like, "Oh, you're just a cave woman. You don't understand." And she's like, "Well, what does that mean?" I'm like, "Oh, I know it's just like drama and they're gonna get together, but this makes me sad."
Oh, but it was also really great. What I appreciate about that is that because of that they learn the concept that words can hurt and the concept of passive aggression.
Yeah.
And it's like wait,
words as weapons.
And then he remembers all the things he said, like, ah!
Yeah. Like the fight between the fight between Grug and Phil.
rock.
Yeah, where they're like gonna punch each other, then they're like, oh, you hit me when it's like using words can be weapons. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, hit me where it hurts. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that played really well. I think one of my favorite bits from the whole punch monkey language thing is when they're like, giant monster, wait, yeah, go back. We are not going back.
I think that too.
Big kaiju porcupine monkey. That was pretty cool. Big fan.
The punch monkey language is right up my alley with comedy. Yeah. It's just the stupidest thing. And
it's slapstick. It's straight slapstick, yeah.
Again, like just thinking about the punch monkey thing and like the bananas. Bananas are a great gag. I really like that like Grug's just obsessed with bananas and all that. I think it's very funny. Again, it's one of those things where like you watch the Croods one and there's a whole section where Guy has a hat of bananas that he's just handing to the punch monkeys. And Grug doesn't freak out about bananas. Nobody does. Everybody acts like they've never seen a banana before. Whatever. It's minor shit. It doesn't really, like I said, it doesn't really ruin the movie. I do think that there's certain concepts where it's like their changed outfits, their changed designs that could have just carried over, and that wouldn't have hurt anybody for that to be the case.
Yeah.
Especially because I'm like, I really would have liked if the movie had opened up with like them Grug kind of screwing up still. I think would have been a good place to start. Encouraging Guy on the path of wanting to leave the pack, because Grug like still kind of like is doing his best, but he led them astray because they lost one of their cats that they rode. They're not as wonderfully like tribalistic, doing great as they look like they were at the end of the first one. The other big thing that kind of bothers me with this movie is Funk is just a waste. Funk's character becomes
the brother.
He becomes.
I get you want to try and do like some sort of representation of like the lazy kid who just wants to sit in front of the TV all day, but at the same time, it's like when they were trying to go get Grug and Phil, and then the basket gets broken, and he finds his own little window. It's like, okay, you're just stop it.
I agree, but I also think he might have been the weak link in the first movie too. This is what I was going to say. This is what I was going to say.
I think Funk is just as much the weak link as he was in the first film.
Yeah.
In this film, I find it more egregious because in this film, his weak link is based entirely around a single joke.
Oh yeah, the window.
I wish that it were at least not that, because like that's literally all he does the whole movie.
Yeah.
Whereas at least in the first one, like he's the dumb one, and that's the funny thing, is that he's like the really dumb caveman. Yeah. But he's still doing different things. In this one, it's just all about that window gag.
No, yeah.
And I'm over it after the fourth time.
Yeah, I wasn't doing it for a bit, and then I'm like, oh wow, they're still doing it.
Yeah, like the one joke with Thunk that I did like was that every time a stick is involved, it ends up in someone's eye.
That was funny.
I
like the rooster tail going and then I want to say almost it was Phil or someone else where they get the stuff. Of course, and then in the rule of three, you get the giant kaiju porcupine monkey, and he goes, ah!
The final one really got me when it's just
That was a good one. The second one was Grug's imagination.
Right after that's right.
Yeah. Imagine doing it to Phil, but didn't actually.
There were multiple hallucinations of him like murdering or like beating people up or doing something, and then it's just in his brain. I'm like, that's good. That's that good comedy. Yeah.
Yeah. There's really good visual beats. The eating gag when they first come upon all that food and they get full for the first time and they're just like shoving it in and going nuts.
There's a great like 1 second montage of all of them eating watermelons, and it's different colored watermelons, and they're eating different parts of it. And I'm like, it's just good, nice filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
pretty.
What else is really funny? No,
what else was funny?
But yeah,
I remember because we saw this in a drive-thru and Ryan was in my car. And when we were watching this, because we saw that like the land sharks, like because even Ryan was like,
land sharks are a really cool design.
Yeah, but it's like Avatar essentially. It's like Avatar: Last Airbender where they mix animals.
Well,
it's wolf spiders.
Well, it's really interesting because in the first film, one of the things I noticed is that a lot of the like major mammals are what we know as aquatic, but like it's like there's land whales in the first film. A sea turtle that can fly, things like that. And so like in this one, they take that even further and they do like the land sharks and the whatever that giant seal narwhal
chicken seals.
Big fan of
chicken
it.
seals. The narwhal sea lion.
The moomiths.
Man, that I don't buy plushies or anything. But like that cat that they own, like that big headed cat, Chunky with the small body, just adorable.
I'm really glad that Chunky was back. I think Chunky was used to good comedic effect as well.
Just a cute little guy.
When they take him out like a motorcycle and he clenches his butt cheeks.
Yeah,
like, that's good comedy.
Yeah,
it's good comedy.
Or when the grandma's like, "Well,
let's go jump over more stuff."
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad it's you, Chunky.
Yeah.
The reveal of grandmother's wig.
I just thought
it was like, well, I guess we're all revealing secrets now. And then you see that little like flying squirrel going.
And see,
I love a good.
That's something where, like, if you didn't see the first movie, I don't think that reveal would be as powerful because you don't have any relation to the grandma. And it's like, oh, that's just something she can do now. But like that first movie, she just has hair, so like this is a reveal.
Yeah,
I love a good screaming gag, which is why I really like the stick in eyes. And so like the if we're all revealing secrets,
yeah, right. Yeah, I thought that kind of stuff worked really well. Before we get too far away from it, what I was going to say about Thunk is what really ticks me off about Thunk is that not only is it this one gag around the window thing, but at a certain point he learns a lesson about not looking through the window anymore, and that he should put it down and he should embrace real life. He should, like there's more value in that. And then in like the next scene that we see him in, he's doing the window thing again. Like he's just right back to it. And I'm like, well,
what an addict.
Well, why? Like, why even have him have that moment if you're just gonna keep it? Like, just leave.
Yeah,
that really like just like threw me for a loop. I'm like, you really just don't know what to do with this character.
Yeah,
it's
for
like,
real.
Wow, guys, you had something really neat here, but then you messed it up.
It's the thing. The difference in the first film to the second film. In the first film, you can have the comedic relief dumb character. You have a large cast of characters that you're developing everyone, and you can do that. You can have a character that is just to be dumb, and even Thunk learns a little bit of a lesson in it, just to kind of round off the cast. But when you get to a second film, when you decide to franchise it, you need to branch out and actually try to. You need to make something more than a character, than a caricature. You need to at least try to have Thunk do something more than just be dumb. You can't just rely on the same gag in the second film.
100%.
That first movie, like it's funny, but I wouldn't call it a comedy. Where like this movie, I would probably call more of a comedy. But the problem is that first movie, he is your comedy character. So when you transition to a comedy movie, you have to do more of that character. Otherwise, he's gonna stand out as being bad.
Right.
Because
which is what happened.
Yeah.
Thunk is definitely the weakest part of the movie for me.
I agree. But like, because Oh, sorry.
No, I was gonna say Thunk was the only one that I'm like, can we stop with the window gag? I was like the first 2 times, okay, yeah, it's kind of funny, but then it's like, no, I'm done.
I did like the Better Mom gag though.
I did like that.
Yes.
Better Dad.
Yeah, I thought that fit in line with his character very well. But like those moments were few and far between when it came to Thunk.
Mm-hmm.
I do think like Thunk is in 100%. I think the worst part about the movie, because even with those things we talked about before about like not carrying on the thematic pieces from the first one and that kind of stuff. Once I think you get to about 20 minutes into the movie picks up its stuff on its own, and that becomes irrelevant.
Mhm.
I think it is troublesome in the first 20 minutes, but even by that point, like Grug starts to get on a different track where he is doing something new in the movie. Like we start to branch away and actually progress. And I'm like, well, we get there. We get there 20 minutes later than I want to be, but we do get there, and it's moving along just fine once that happens.
Is there a point where Grug turns into like a Betterman, or like he dresses up like one of them?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
When he makes the deal, and then he's like, oh, he tricked me, and then they start going like ultra caveman, where they get like even bigger brows and everything. And she's like, tone it
he
down.
hulks out.
Yeah,
that was good.
She too, Uga too, because they both realize that they're being pushed out.
I love it.
I think the arc between Uga and the Betterman, I forget her character's name. But,
I also do.
But Mrs. Betterman, I think that arc of her coming to terms with realizing she's been classist.
Yep.
Which the movie's really good at doing classism.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big chunk of the film is about classism, and they handle that very well. And when she recognizes, like, because they save her from the wolf spiders are dope, by the way. But when they save her and she realizes how she's been and who she's been, and that it doesn't need to be that way, and that she doesn't need to treat people that way. I think that resolution is done just as well as most anime movies do that kind of thing. The good ones, where it feels like, yeah, you really hit that one. Good job. And I think that arc lands really well. Unlike the lesson for, I would argue, for Thunk, obviously, but also for, I would even say for Guy and Eep, I don't think is executed quite as well as I'd like it to be. Just not so much in the ending of it, but because of how the arc is treated up to that point.
No, I agree. Yeah, the execution getting there could have been better.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas I think the whole arc with getting Mrs. Betterman to recognize them as equals is done very well throughout the film.
I really like the ending, just like the whole, like the sequence of like, you know, like the boys are captured and the girls have to like come and save them.
Yeah.
I really just like that whole sequence is just so fun. And like the whole Thunder Sisters thing, like I thought I was going to get annoyed by it, but like I'm a big fan. I just really like it. I think it's just real silly. It's like the words coming at you. It's like, evil mom or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I don't know. I thought it was real fun.
Like swamp bucket or something.
Bog water. Bog water. Big hair.
You got oh man, you got Fireheart or
something. I thought that was.
She's like, my name is Bogwater, and it's like, well, I named you that before. Yeah, I saw your cool hair.
Yeah, it's like a nice little like D&D group that is formed.
I love the Banana Bros. And Phil become, and everyone's like, what is happening? Why are they like this?
I honestly, I want Peter Dinklage to do more voice acting, because I just found him so charming, and his voice is seriously just like gravy in my ears. It's like, it's so soothing. He's like, yes, I'm the best, and I'm like, no, you are the best. Yes.
Greg and Phil become the first ever bromance.
Yeah, they do. History in the making.
Oh, and another gag I liked is how Phil learned the punch monkey language really quickly, and then Greg was like, no.
Can you say it one more time?
One more time.
Yeah, I think I'm pretty much good with this one.
Yeah. Croods, underappreciated franchise, I think.
Yeah.
All right. So let's
go ahead.
I was just say let's rate it.
Sure.
Sparks.
I'm gonna also give it what I gave the last movie. I'm gonna give it an 8. I think it's solid, great, animated fun.
Sparks.
Oh, sorry. I was thinking about it. Come back to me.
Come back.
No, I'll give it a solid 8 as well.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Big 8.
Now, Sparks, or you want me to go?
I guess I'll give it an 8.5. I was trying to think if I could justify a 9, but I think that there's just enough not quite doing it for me, at least on this first watch, for me to put it there. I think it's really funny. I'm overall extremely happy, because this just could have been bad, and I'm just grateful that it's not.
Right, yeah.
I think it's thoroughly entertaining. I think the comedy is top notch. I would recommend it to people. I think people should see it. I just do wish it had picked up some of the pieces that I think were the strongest points of the original.
Yeah, for me, like I said in the beginning, I find it enjoyable. It's a good movie. It doesn't quite hit the emotional heights of the first film, which makes the first film far superior in my eyes. And while I do like a lot of the comedy, I don't really get too invested in the film until the punch monkeys become a more major antagonist. With all that said, I'd probably give it a 7.
All good scores.
Okay, so that'll do it for this. We've almost caught up on all the movies that came out. Well, we couldn't see them. Croods, by the way, is available now on VOD.
I mean, only one that we're reviewing.
No, we're doing Promising Young Woman next in January.
I want to see that movie, so that's fine.
Yeah. We're also doing Lupin in January and Wonder Woman in January and Soul in January. Ugh.
Oh, that's right.
Didn't something else just come out? Oh yeah, Monster Hunter.
Hell yeah!
Can we veto that? Do we have to do that?
I want to see that so bad.
We don't have to do it.
No, we're not going to do it, but I'm going to see it somehow.
You heard it here first, folks. We're not doing Monster Hunter. All right, so that'll do it for this. Like I said up top, our freaky review is probably up right now. We did these the same day, so here you go. Happy Christmas.
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah. Yeah, it's a good, great last day of Hanukkah present. Whatever, sure. We should have done 8 days of reviews.
No.
Coming up, we have our review of Tenet. Christopher Nolan's latest film that did worse than the Croods. Last week we did the Disney Investor Day meeting and we did video games, so check all that stuff out. All up on our YouTube page and up on our audio feeds. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel. We got a lot of cool stuff like our Fake Nerds Watch series, which we have with The Mandalorian. One more episode of The Mandalorian is coming at you from us and the show. I made the same joke in the last video. And we also have our Basement Arcade and our Fake Nerd Book Club series, which are both off for the rest of the year. And we will soon be off for the rest of the year outside of our holiday annual, which we are going to be talking about some more movies, some unorthodox Christmas movies.
So many movies.
Until then, you can find us on BT McClure. I'm at BT McClure on Instagram and Twitter. Ben?
You can find me on the internet at BenMagnet27 on Instagram and Twitter.
Sparks?
You can find me still crying at my computer at Sparks Witty on Instagram and Twitter, SPARKZ Witty.
Ryan?
You can listen to me listening to Sparks cry at his computer at DJ Tony Snark everywhere.
What does listening mean? Sound like?
Oh, now that you say it, I don't know. I don't like it. We're gonna we're gonna restart the whole podcast over.
Thanks, I hate it.
All right, welcome to our review of the Croods. So you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all at FakeNerd Podcast or FakeNerdPodcast.com. You can find all of our stuff. Check us out, guys. We're everywhere. Like this video, subscribe to this channel. Greatly appreciate it. Until next time. Yeah, okay, I'm done. Until next time, stay fake nerds.
Ugga. The Croods 3 coming soon next year.
Good news, your guys' presents just showed up, so I will have them wrapped, and Sam, I'll probably swing by and give them to you wrapped up tomorrow.
Sure.
Yeah.
I gotta coordinate with Fanny when to give her yours too.
All right. Or if you want, you can coordinate with Fanny and she could just give you mine if that's easier.
Whichever.
Okay. Shall we do?
I just don't want you to have any concept of how we got you. I know we got you. But I don't want you to know how we got you.
Well, I fucking know you guys got me.
Oh, did we do a thing this year?
Yeah.
Oh
we?
shit.
Yeah.
Well, I guess he did.
I will always.
One of the
Everyone
one
else
year,
quit. No, I won't let it die.
1 year we'll get you by not getting you. Like
And
10
then you'll be
years
like-
down the
And then the year after, we'll get him the Powerline shirts again.
The 5-year anniversary.
I saw that there's a Powerline pop figure now. I thought about it.
Don't I already have it?
That's the joke. You would just get 3 more. All right, let's do this voodoo that we do. Let's get this wrote. Yeah, let's get this wrote on the show. I did it.
Steam is finished downloading back for Butter. All right, guys, we'll do this review later. Hold on.
All right, see you later. Okay.
B4B.
I don't have anything special, so I'm just going to do an intro.
That's okay. The whole thing's a special.
Ooh, you're special in my eyes, baby. Okay.
Must be glass eyes.
Samuel L. Jackson? Because he's glass? Sorry. I thought you were processing the joke. I thought you were
He
going.
was just getting red.
Let's get into the intro.